Good afternoon, good evening to those of you in North America, and good morning to those of you in Asia and Australia. Today's episode of the Pivot Cast, I am your host, Sarah the Pivoter, and I'm going to be interviewing Adam, and we're talking about writing that book finally. So here on the Pivot Cast, I interview super rad humans from around the world doing rad things in all walks of life. This is a platform to share their voice and their story and bring value to all of you listeners. I'm really stoked to be here with you guys today. We're going to hear some super rad ideas from today's guest, and he's going to give us the down low on some simple steps for finally finishing that book that you've been wanting to write faster than you thought possible. And this is going to be done through his creative writing, editing, and publishing strategies, which he's going to share with us today. And he will simplify all the complicated writing advice you could ever Google and make sure that you've got the bare essentials that you need to get started. Not only that, we're going to have some fun. So without further ado, I'll bring Adam on. Hi, Adam. Welcome.
Hey, Sarah.
Thank you for being here with me today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited.
I'm excited
That
too.
intro was really good.
I love that we're doing this. I'm in Austin, you're in Australia. So it's 2 different days. It's March 4th by you, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
11
so you're in
a.m.
the future and you're giving us all the strategies for
from the
writing our
future.
book and bringing it into the future. I love it. Now, if that's not pure wizardry and magic, I don't know what else is. Amazing. All right. So Adam and I connected through a mutual friend and coach of ours, and we started chatting and we got to know each other. And I did a clarity call with Adam so that I could understand more about the writing process. I said I wasn't an author, and he's like, excuse me, didn't you just write a chapter in a book? And I was like, oh yeah, I did. So I'm learning how to identify with being an author. So Adam, tell us a little bit more about how you became an author in your journey, and how you help your clients to identify themselves as authors as well.
How I became an author. That's a long story, so I'll try to keep it quick. When I was 5 years old, I was reading stories like Red War, which is about little creatures having wars with like magical items and swords and things like that. And I've always loved soft toys. So I guess I've always been telling stories since I was, since I could speak, maybe even before I spoke.
Amazing.
But when I became like an author, like, taking it seriously was when in my Bachelor of Communication, I got like high 90s in writing subjects, and my other subjects I got like 70s, 80s. So it wasn't as good. So I thought, hang on, maybe I really should, take this writing thing one step further. So then I did a master's of creative writing, editing, and publishing, and I started my first book, El Daria, in that. And they give us like a thesis. So that you can choose like a research one or a fully creative one. And I chose fully creative, and I started El Daria, which has been my dream book, which I've finished. I finished a couple of times because you got your first draft, second draft, third draft, maybe fourth if you're unlucky. I finished the third draft this year, actually.
Amazing. Well done. Congratulations. How did that feel when you finally finished that third draft?
A sense of completeness, like everything that I've been working towards is complete, kind of like a puzzle with all the pieces just falling into place and like glowing.
I love it. And can you tell us a little bit about your book and what the premise of it?
So I have a few books that I'm actually going to talk about. My main one, El Daria, is about, it's kind of like Frozen, but instead of it being an ice queen, it's a boy who has a curse where he burns people if he loses control of his emotions. And the heart of it, which I'll explain with my method, is basically we must get in touch with our emotions in order to live more fulfilling lives and inspire those around us to not destroy their own life and, happiness, basically.
Yeah, I love it. And what a beautiful metaphor as well for what actually happens in life, right? We very often lose our control of emotions, or we can't even identify what we're feeling. And so we like blast off at people. And we burn relationships, right? So I love that. It sounds like it's magic, but also very practical life advice at the same time. So cool. All right. So, Adam, how do you? I know you've been working as a writing coach for aspiring fantasy authors for quite some time now. So, you really help them to overcome analysis paralysis, and you do this through intuitive storytelling strategies. So, can you tell us about your signature storytelling strategy system that helps people to do this effortlessly without all that overwhelm and also having fun at the same time?
Yeah. So I spent probably because I did my master's, so I was learning a lot of writing theory in my master's. But after my master's, I was reading lots of writing theory books. Like people will say, "Hey, have you read this book on writing?" I say, "Yeah, I've read it." It doesn't help, like
Mm,
um, for specific things. Some of these books they just overwhelm you because there's just
right.
so much. Like especially for writing your first draft, you don't need all of this information, and I certainly didn't need it, and it just made me become more of a perfectionist and more stuck in this analysis paralysis. So
Yeah.
I've boiled down all this complicated writing advice to like five simple things, which is heart, character, desire, scenes, and plot.
Mm,
And the main part of my method is heart, character, desire. So, so the first part is heart. So it's all about finding the heart of what your novel is really about and writing what you love, not what you think others love, so that people can feel your desire in your writing and it can keep you motivated to keep writing.
mm.
So, um, so I was just thinking, so your group is all about Star Wars and Jedi's.
Yes.
So what would you say the heart of the novel, the heart of the story of Star Wars is about?
What would I say the heart of Star Wars is about?
Yeah,
I'd really say it's like freedom to be who you are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you could say like Star Wars is about a guy training to be a Jedi, but that's like what it's about, but not the heart of it, the theme.
Mm,
Um, and once I found the heart of my novel, it's much easier to write because you constantly have it in your mind as you're writing. So
yeah.
everything falls back to that. Um, and I was just thinking as well, yeah, Star Wars is also like the heart could also be like self mastery, which I
Yes.
know you're very passionate about. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and
Yeah,
so,
I was just gonna
yeah,
say it ties really nicely into, if you have the heart, that's like your why. So anything that you write, you can tie it back to that, and which just makes it seems like it would just flow so much more effortlessly already.
yeah, and it can really help with the editing process. Like, I mean, for for the authors I help, which is his first draft, I don't recommend like thinking too much about editing, but just quickly, if you're like trying to work out what scene, um, if a scene should be in your book or not, having this heart line, this heart sentence about your book helps because. So, for example, there's like this scene where this boy goes to this creature and accidentally steals its gems and then the creature attacks him. And I
Okay.
go, that's like fun, but how does that relate to the plot? And then I realize, to the heart, and I realize it relates to the plot and the heart because the creature has lost control of its emotions in a way. So
Mm,
there's
yeah,
another manifestation of that.
beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So everything's woven in and it's like layered throughout every single action. So it's very intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a PDF that goes into this. So if you guys want to see more, drop a heart emoji or heart GIF below
Yes.
wherever you're
Thank you,
watching
gifts.
this,
They're
and
so fun.
I will reach out to you. Yeah, I love all the heart GIFs. They're
Yeah.
very thought provoking. Um, so shall I tell you the step two?
Yes, please. And before we get into step two, it was heart, character, desire. Is that's your signature three-step kind of core. But then you said also scenes and what else?
Scene and plot. So I give in my program, I give strategies around um, how to write scenes that are really it's like really straightforward and you don't have to think too much and you just sort of flows, and plot how to plot your novel in an easy, straightforward way.
Okay. Amazing. All right. So let's go to step two, character.
Okay, so character is using what you love and hate about yourself and others to create real characters. So if you think about creating a character and you're just thinking about like characters from fiction and just, typical personality types and stuff, you're not really giving the reader a chance to really feel your character and like really identify with them. But if you think about what you like really love, which the thing is, these steps, they're all mixed together.
Mm.
But so if you think about what you really love about yourself and others, and also what you hate about yourself and others, you can create a really dynamic character. So I might almost cry, but I was writing, so not
It's loud.
Aladari the fantasy, but I was writing a thriller, and it was a standard thriller about a bunch of teenagers that are defending themselves against these highly trained soldiers, and
Mm-hmm.
it felt a bit like, I loved the idea. I felt it was really clever. My writing professor said it was a really good idea. He was like, Steven Spielberg would jump at a chance to turn this into a movie. And
Well, Steven
that's like
Spielberg, if he watches the replay, then reach
yeah,
out because we're going to create a movie.
If you're watching Steven, drop a heart below.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I got like a lot of praise for that, and I thought, I'll just keep going with this book that everyone seems to love. I kind of love it, but
Yeah.
I don't like really, really love it. I like the idea, but I'm not, in love with the idea.
Right.
And so then I was going into my own program, Draft Complete coaching program, and it was kind of funny because I wanted to write this book, and I thought, should I get a writing coach or be my own writing coach? And I was like, I'm going to be my own writing coach. And so as I was going to do it, because, as a coach, you got a bit of pressure to, do well because you're the leader. I was going to do it, and I had this draft that I started. It was 10,000 words I wrote 6 years ago, and then I stopped because I wanted to do Eladaria more, even though a publisher was like, you should send us this book. I disobeyed the publisher and did what I really loved.
Yeah.
And this is the book that I finished last year as well. I finished this book last year, but I'm getting sidetracked. So when I was going to write it and I was going to do the 6 weeks with everyone, the day before, I was actually thinking maybe I will write like the third book of Eladaria instead of this book. But the reason I was thinking that was because I was scared that I wouldn't finish this book. And I thought I didn't have enough desire to finish it. And it's kind of how I feel when I start a new book. I'm like, can I really do it? Can I really
That
write this?
imposter syndrome starts to creep in a little bit, right?
Yeah, even though I've done it before, I'm just like, can I really do that?
Yeah.
It's like with everything in life, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, okay, so I've got this idea with the soldiers and the teenagers, and I've put a bit of myself into the characters and of my friends and stuff in the characters, but the theme is just like a standard thriller. And like action movies, like, I don't know, The Bourne Supremacy, that's probably a more exciting action movie than I'm thinking. But those ones like Brad Pitt where just nothing happens or nothing meaningful happens. It's just explosions and fighting and nonsense.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't want my book to be a bit like that, and I don't really love those things. I love smart thrillers. Like, I mean, Taken's kind of borderline like that, but it's also smart.
Right.
And then I thought, Eladaria has time travel, fantasy, ancient cultures in it. So I injected my love of like, fantasy, ancient cultures, time travel into this thriller to make it more dynamic. And that's like in a nutshell what I help people do, because it can be a long road to get to what you truly desire.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a difference between want and desire, right? Nicole talks about that. But sometimes we don't actually fully understand all the layers of that desire. And so having someone to reflect back to you what's going on with the book and how does it tie into the heart of it, and why are you writing it, who you are, and how you're infusing that essence into the book, I think is really, really important. Because otherwise to me, I'm already thinking like I would be drowning. I would need that lifeline extended so that I could keep going and not get too overwhelmed.
Right, you were saying about the difference between want and desire, and I was just thinking like it's kind of like almost this need to it can also be like the need to impress. Like,
Mm,
I want to write this book because, he said that thing about Steven Spielberg and that publisher, and I like the idea, other people like the idea when they hear about it, but I just want to write it. I don't desire to write it. So finding that desire with the time travel and the fantasy was key to finishing it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, well, also as you were describing your book with ancient culture and all this stuff in it, like I need a copy. So please also share the link with us so that I can put it into the comments afterwards, so other people can also find like where we can buy it and all that kind of stuff, because it sounds super rad. I'm definitely going to read this book, because those are like the core things of all my favorite books that I read. They're always in there, so I'm excited about that.
Awesome. That's another thing, is like writing the book for the people that you really get along with. So
Yeah.
like subconsciously, I would have written this book for you too.
Yes. Oh.
But I
I
haven't
love it.
actually finished. I haven't actually published either of these. So I
Okay.
may be dropping the link 6 months later or something.
That's okay.
But
That's completely fine. Well, when it's ready, we'll be ready and waiting. I'll be waving my flag, and when I get my copy, I need your signature on it, because I'll be in Australia next month. So then I can get the like pre-release signature.
I give you I can sign my draft.
Yes, exactly. Just give me like the first page, and then I can put that in the book later when I get it.
Yeah, I think the first page will stay the same. I was thinking, I've forgotten now. I'm gonna have a sip of my magical water and maybe it will come to me.
Yes, drink the magical water. Water is a magical drink, and you should stay hydrated because it helps you think very clearly. So we've talked about heart, we've talked about character, and then the desire, right? And so why it's moving, why does this plot exist, and why do we have these scenes? So I guess that's why scenes and plot are kind of the supplementary add-ons, right? Because once you have that desire and you tie it back to the heart, it becomes quite easy for the scenes and the plot to manifest, really, and then you can tie it all back together.
Yeah, so I didn't speak much about desire, even though I did. I didn't talk about the step of desire. So would you
Okay,
like me to
let's
go
talk
over
about the
that
step
now?
of desire then.
Okay, so desire is like kind of like a novel is all about achieving or not achieving desires,
Mhm.
like life, So your characters, they either achieve the desire or they don't. It's a
Right.
tragedy, or it's what's the opposite of tragedy? Um, Fairy tale, I guess. And when you get clear on why your character desires what they desire and how they feel when they get them and when they don't
Mhm.
get them, it gives your plot more momentum, because you can understand how the character's going to feel when they don't get the desire, so they're going to do things to go towards that desire.
Right.
And the thing is, this method actually helps with like your life as well, because it's all linked. We're like the character in our own main story.
Yeah. I was just
That's it.
thinking, I mean, why do we do anything in life, right? We do it to achieve a desire or to avoid pain. And so by going through this process, I feel like for some people, it could be quite therapeutic. I mean, my brother's in film and cinematography, and he put together one of his first films, and it was literally like trauma transformed into art. And it was just this beautiful portrayal of an experience. And I think this is why journaling as well, right? People can see their thoughts, they can witness it, they can see it unfold. And so there'd probably be a lot of value, not just in the book itself that's being written, but in your own growth and understanding of like, well, where does this come from? Like, how did you get this storyline with the heart of it and the desire, and how does that tie back to your own desires?
Yeah, so this, like, when you speak, I just start getting like really good ideas come in my head.
Amazing.
So yeah, so I'll finish the method, then I'll explain that. So because then I'll lose my train of thought. So but I think you kind of touched on that. Basically, like our motivations slash our characters' motivations behind the desire, and how in each scene this changes. Because if you think, like, when you wake up, you've got a desire to achieve a certain goal in your business. You wake up and your desire is like really strong. Maybe
Mhm.
then the next day it's not strong. Something happens and your desire wanes.
Yeah.
Like something else pops up, you get distracted, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. When that happens, and I'm sure that's probably happened to you, but when people might lose their desire, then how can you like get it back so that you can go back into the writing and maybe even understand that that can be part of their character's plot, right? And the journey that the character goes through.
So I would say think back to the reason why you became a writer.
Hmm.
And so, for example, for me, it's like the soft toys, the magical elements,
Yeah.
um, creating a whole world, and also thinking about your novel in different ways. Like in my program, I have these daily prompts that give like a different slant on how you can think about your novel. And
Mm,
I find even for me, because I was like the student in my own program,
yeah.
even for me, it helped me come up with ways around plot holes and things like that. So
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I love that you just mentioned that you're a student in your own program too, because ultimately, for all you coaches out there or teachers, the material that you're teaching is always evolving, right? And so as you're going through, like I just redid my own program last like 2 weeks ago, and it was then I was able to see like, oh, when I first started, that was this. So now can change my messaging. I can change some of these, just like evolving the language because it's an art form, right? The first time you ever do something, it might be a bit clunky or, maybe it's really great, but it could always be refined. And so how we do that process is a great also translation over into real life. The way you do one thing is the way you do all things.
yeah, even the PDF that I'm sharing with you guys today is like at the first version, it was all logical and like there's a bit of passion, but the
Mm.
second version is a mix of passion and logic. So it's like more inspiring than the first version.
Oh yeah.
Even though the first version still was effective, it's just, more exciting.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely. You probably added some bells and whistles and, some the emotion layered in, and then maybe some graphics or imagery that really supports what's being written because, we have learners who are visual, who are auditory, who are kinesthetic, who really, need some of these more tactile things. So how can you do that? So it's not just a blank piece of paper with some words on it, right? Because some people, we all have attention spans of like a goldfish these days. So some people really need something that can kind of pull all the different senses, which is what a good book does, right?
right now I need to hire an expert graphic designer to put wizards and hearts and all these things in my PDF. But
Yes. So if any of you are watching and you are a graphic designer, reach out to Adam because that would be an amazing connection. And somebody's commenting saying they love that daily prompts, and then they also need pictures. I would agree. I mean, I can listen to a podcast, and I can get a good sense of what's going on. But this is why I do my version of the podcast on StreamYard because I get to see you and people get to see the facial expressions and the hand motions. I talk with my hands a lot. And I think you just get so much more than if it's just words on paper. For the ones who are very visual, when they're reading a book, obviously they're creating pictures in their minds. And this is why sometimes the book doesn't match the movie, right? Because the director of the movie is trying to condense what he or she thinks is important into 90 minutes or 2 hours. So, Steven Spielberg, when we create this film, we're just going to have to make sure you get the real heart so that we can put it out the way that it was intended to be.
yeah, I don't know if this is a defense mechanism, but that when I said about that thing with the characters and how I was going to
Mm-hmm.
cry, I didn't even finish the train of thought because I guess I'm sad. But when I talk about the characters and how you inject what you love and hate in them, I had um, I had killed off like one character, maybe two, in
Mm-hmm.
my book, and I cried because they had so much of people I knew like
Right,
loved in them. So
right.
it was sad. So
Oh,
that's more
I love.
powerful than just writing a thin character.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And I can hear the emotion in your voice, and that's really powerful because I think it allows you to recognize what you truly love about other people, right? And about yourself. And when you're then talking about what you don't like about yourself or other people, and if that character happens to die, it's almost like that part of you has a bit of a death, like an ego death, right? So it's okay, well, it doesn't have to be that way, right? So we're going to change the story and we're going to do it this way from now on. So there's a lot of real beautiful, like, interconnectedness within that. And I agree with you that the characters should have more depth, because that's what makes the difference between like a good novel and a fantastic novel.
Right. Yeah. Great novels are all about characters, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, Adam, tell me more about your program, because I love the daily prompts. And just like one of the users that commented said, I think that's super helpful because people get overwhelmed. A lot of my clients, they're always looking at like the outcome, right? So for you, it's what does my novel look like? But to get there, there's so many micro steps and little things that you have to do in order to have that outcome. And what they probably originally intended to write may not be what they end up writing, right? Like there's going to be morphing and changing and evolving throughout the entire process. So tell us a little bit more about, how long your program is, and what are you doing to help people through that process using this method?
Okay, so one thing I forgot to say is you're talking about daily prompts,
Mm,
and there was an example of one of the prompts was a girl unlocking her eye, not like gross, but like a key in her eye, and
okay.
it sparked something in one of my members in Wizard City, my group,
Yeah.
and she wrote a really beautiful story behind it, like a very powerful story. So that's just like one of the prompts that I have in my program, and so it's 6 weeks long.
Okay.
So, or 6 weeks short, I should say, because to finish it
Yeah.
after 6 weeks that's pretty good. Some people like they take 6 months to a year. I know for
Mhm.
me it took me 4 years because I was stuck in this analysis paralysis,
Mhm.
perfectionism. Um, and actually, the sequel, was more enjoyable to write, and I did it in a month compared to 4 years. And I
Wow.
love some parts of the plot more than the first book, so
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Yeah, definitely. Someone's just commented as well saying that it's like the TV show Lock and Key. That's what your story has reminded them of. And so, I mean, that's a great demonstration right there, right? We're having a conversation and we're discussing something, and it's made a connection for somebody that's watching, right? And when you have a group format, then that magic can really happen, because the way I interpret information, the way you interpret information is very different. So when we're all in there together, then we start to unlock, right, different aspects, different versions, and we can create those kind of sparks, and connections can be made a lot faster, because how long would it have taken to get there on our own, right? But when you have that mirror reflected
Right,
back at
yeah.
you, or the different perspective, and like you said, when once you started working with a coach, it was like within a month, what came out was even stronger, and you achieved more than maybe in the last 4 years. And I know you had a client recently as well. What was the like amount of words that they wrote from before and after working with you? I mean, it was something insane. I can't
It
remember.
was unbelievably insane. So she was working on her book for 5 years, and she wrote 5,000 words over 5 years.
Wow.
She was similar to me. She had lots of ideas and a really complicated Excel sheet with lots of plotting and everything, and it
Yeah.
just got in her way. And so I helped her overcome that, and she ended up writing. So she was averaging probably it was about 80 words a month over these
Right.
5 years.
Yeah.
And last year she wrote 70,000 words in 8 months. So that was an average of 8,000 a month.
That's insane. That exponential growth is just like mind blowing, but it just shows you when you have structure and you've got someone to guide you and, help bounce those ideas off of, you can really move so much faster. I think you've experienced that in your career as well. I mean, for me, I had my program ideas for like 18 months, and I kind of brought some of it out, but I didn't really develop it. And I'd get distracted by all the shiny things, like, oh, I can go learn this, and oh, I can do that, and this is fun. And then I started working with a coach who not only was that mirror and reflection, but gave me the direction, gave me structure, and started to go like, hey, Sarah, I thought you desired this. So what are you doing over there doing that thing? Right. So I think, that's amazing. What an achievement. So when her book gets published as well, then I can see your name, as editor in her book, right?
Coach or something.
Yeah,
Um,
amazing.
unless she wants me to edit it. But yeah, so when I first spoke to her, she had a really great idea already. And I was just amazed that she'd only written 5,000. I was like, this idea is amazing. What's happening here?
Yeah,
And so she had a few calls with me, and she did my I've got like quests in my group, like
amazing.
magical
Love it.
quests to keep writing fun and
Yeah,
magical. And she did a few of those quests, but the one that really helped her was this Looney Tunes method, my Looney Tunes method masterclass.
I love it.
And also I had a 10-day quest along with that. And she was writing, we'd already worked together for a bit. So she was writing 2,000 words a day, or not a day, but that was her highest, was 2,000 words in a day, which in context is about 2 years worth of her old productivity in one
Wow,
day.
that's crazy. And
Yeah.
I mean, like thinking about it, the feeling that you'd have would just be phenomenal.
Yeah, she can't believe it. She's just
Yeah,
like, is this real? It's surreal.
yeah. That is so cool. So you have helped unlock her desire and her like motivation to keep going. Um, and I know that you're offering, you've got like a group that's kind of open for a wider group, and then the clients go into another one. So you also told me that you've got some call options. Like if people complete these quests, they get a chance to jump on a longer call with you. Is that right?
Yeah, so she completed the quests, and she had the best, response to the quest, the most engaged, which I
Yeah.
love to reward.
Yeah.
And she had a hour-long call with me, which I offer in my program as well, only for the next 3 people actually. But
Beautiful.
she had an hour-long call with me, and she pretty much, um, I pretty much just filled in all of the little gaps in her plot and in her like some self-doubt and things with magic, and she plotted her whole book, um, and she sent me an outline of it the next day, and I was like,
Amazing.
wow, I didn't realize I could help that much.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like going around what I was saying before though, because that happened earlier. But the masterclass, she had the 2,000 words before the masterclass.
Mhm.
Afterwards, she wrote 4,000 words in one day, which is, nearly 5 years worth in one day
Yeah.
of her
That's
old
amazing.
writing speed.
I love it. All right. So for those of you watching, you need to jump into Wizard City because it's one, just sounds awesome, but two, there are a lot of things that you can already start to achieve and get results on with the various quests and things. And I love that you call it a quest, by the way, that because when you make it fun and when you gamify things, then people get really tied in, and that starts to give us permission to unlock that creativity and that joy that I know we all have, but we often stuff down because we've got to wear a suit and we've got to do all these things, or we think we do, right? We go through a period of time, and then I help you unleash that inner rebel, and then Adam's going to help you put that rebel onto paper and make sure that
Yeah.
it comes to life. Beautiful. All right, so Adam, if I know you're going to share the PDF with those who are interested, but if people would like to jump into your Facebook group, can you also tell them like how to find you? What other platforms are you using? And then we'll make sure to share all of that information in the comments as well, so people can easily click through and find you.
Right, but before I say that, I
Mhm.
want to add something to my
Sure.
client's story that is the icing on the cake, the happy ending. Is a year ago she wrote a year ago, she was like lost, because she'd only written 5,000 words, and she had this amazing idea. And a year ago she was lost, but she still wrote. She's very determined, and she still wrote in her diary or something, I'm going to finish my I'm going to finish my novel by Christmas next year. And she finished this novel a week before Christmas, which was amazing.
Amazing. How exciting. What a Christmas came early. That's so cool. And someone's also commented saying that they love the quest idea and they need to hang out with you more to unlock writing abilities. So looks like we've already
Well,
got
feel free
someone
to
on their
join.
way to Wizard City.
Yes, take a dragon, unicorn, whichever you want to ride, and come into our city.
Yes. Oh my God, I love it. Take a dragon or a unicorn. Can I take both?
It can take
Can I have a
a dragon
magical dragon
unicorn.
unicorn creature?
Yes, that'd be awesome.
I'll just put both emojis in. That's perfect.
Spielberg's getting all these great ideas for movies now.
Yes, and see, and this is why I love to do these interviews, because it sparks so much joy and so many connections. So thank you so much for being with me here today, Adam. So again,
My
where
pleasure.
else can people find you?
So can find me in Wizard City and my name, Adam Bogicevic, on Facebook.
Okay, I'm glad that you just said your last name, because I was really struggling. That's why I didn't introduce you with your last name. So thank you very much. I didn't want to butcher it. So I will
No,
make sure
that's
that
not
we
much.
copy on Facebook the group, so you can just click through and go to it. We'll have the links on YouTube and LinkedIn. So then again, it's just very easy for you guys to find Adam. And if you have any questions, just comment and tag either myself or Adam. We'll make sure we get back to you so that you can unlock all your magical writing abilities and release your book before you even blink.
Yes. And so just lastly, drop a heart below, just reminding you guys, drop a heart below or GIF or whatever, and I'll send you the PDF of the heart character design method.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Adam. And thank you to everyone who has joined us today, especially those joining us live. If you're watching this later, type in replay just so that we know. We'd love to hear from you to see what was your biggest takeaway? What did you love the most? And remember, real pivoters are human beings just like you and me. So all it takes is the choice to do something different. So go out and choose something that's going to make you sparkle today and keep on keeping on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.